The data is in for June, and if you're a townhouse owner, you need to be watching this. This is your July market update for townhomes across Vancouver. We're going to be diving into Vancouver East, Vancouver West, and comparing these markets to the Fraser Valley as well as Greater Vancouver, so you have the information you need to know to make an informed decision whether you're wanting to get into the market or possibly liquidate an asset. My name is Kyle Mark, your Vancouver Realtor, and whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest, or relocate to my beautiful city, Vancouver, make sure you book that strategy call with me. All my information is in the description below. I'm super easy to get a hold of, and I am here to help. So let's get into the numbers first and foremost, and what you're going to see right off the bat, and I'm going to show you here. In the blue, it represents the Fraser Valley, the light gray Vancouver East, the yellow Vancouver West, and the dark green Greater Vancouver. And this is the last 3 years of price point. So let's get into these median price points, and you can see here Vancouver West has taken a hit year to year. Right now, the average townhouse is sitting at 1.423 million, a 15.5% drop year over year. Vancouver East also had a drop of 6%, sitting in at 1.1 million. Fraser Valley dropped 2.5 to 829,000 for townhomes, and the Greater Vancouver region as a whole increased 4%. So you can see that there's a little bit of polar opposites here in comparison to the rest of the Vancouver market compared to Vancouver West and Vancouver's East side. And you can see that over the last 3 years, other than Vancouver West, Greater Vancouver and Vancouver East and the Fraser Valley has stayed pretty much the same, but Vancouver West has had some issues here. So I want to open it up. Like I said, this is an average of all townhomes, but if we want to get in to see something a little bit more specific, and we go into these 3-bedroom units here to show you what these averages are. Obviously the price point's going to increase, but if you're looking for that 3-bedroom townhouse in and across Vancouver, you can see that as a whole, 1.1 million across Greater Vancouver, essentially no change year over year. Vancouver West dropped 8.6%, coming in at 1.713 million. Vancouver East increased 8.6% to 1.276 million. Fraser Valley dropped 2.8%, coming in at 839,000. So this is what you're looking at. This is the last 3 years. And if you're interested and you're like, Kyle, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom unit, let's dive into that so you have all the information that is needed. And this is why it's so important getting into these stat lines, because you can specifically see what is going on here. We can see that in the 3-bedroom townhomes, there was an increase just over 8% in Vancouver East. Now look at this, drop of almost 30% year over year. Average townhouse comes in at 834,000 on Vancouver's east side, which is under Greater Vancouver at 886,000. Vancouver West dropped almost 10% at 1.15 million, and the Fraser Valley dropped 1.3% to 723. So the reason why, the 2-bedroom townhomes aren't as popular and see those drops is because you can't really grow into it. People have a 2-bedroom condo, or they're going to want a 2-bedroom townhouse. Likely not, they're going to need to get something a little bit bigger. Sometimes if you're coming out of that 1-bedroom condo, sometimes you can make the leap into a 2-bedroom townhome, but for resale, it can sometimes be a little bit of a difficulty when you just have those 2-bedroom townhomes. But when you can see some of these drops, from 1.19 million to 834, I think it doesn't really matter. You know that there's going to be a history of pricing that's going to come back, and you're going to get some equity in those properties in pretty short order. We can see that for townhomes in December 2022 was a little bit of a pinnacle, and since then, depending where you're at, Vancouver West has trended downward. The Vancouver East market has been all over the place. There's been a huge drop when we saw that just in the data that we're looking at recently. So if you're looking at some of these items here, when it comes to price point, looking at these specific numbers is really, really important. As we go back to, I'm going to just clear the deck here and just do all bedrooms. If you look at sales, they've essentially taken a pretty big drop. You can see upwards of 1,400 just from 2 years ago. Properties aren't moving. There's a lot of options out there, but sales are staying stagnated. And as we jump into the winners and losers here shortly, we're going to go over that a little bit more. If we look at new listings, we see a huge increase of 1,000 just as in the Fraser Valley year to year. A little bit of increases here across the board in Vancouver East and Vancouver's West Side, but as a whole, we're starting to see a lot more options for people outside those areas. I mean, across Vancouver, if you're not looking specifically for Vancouver East or West, we saw an increase of 1,300 townhomes coming to market across Greater Vancouver. If you look at days on market, this has stayed pretty much the same and pretty advantageous if you're in any of these markets. Townhomes are selling on average less than 2 weeks, which is really, really good. So let's jump into the winners and the losers when it comes to price band and it comes to area. We're going to jump into Vancouver's East Side first, and the first thing I want to point out, as per usual, this is the attached data condos and townhomes together. The numbers are going to be similar, but depending on the price band, we're going to be able to pull some of this data out here. So as we can see with that inventory, this is for Vancouver's East Side. These red lines here, this is inventory. It's more than doubled, or almost doubled here in the last 6 months. Sales have doubled as well, but you can see that this gap is widening. And as a buyer, you're wanting to operate in an area when these gaps are wide, not somewhere in December where it's more pinched. You're going to get pinched on that pricing. As a whole, the attached market on the East Side is in seller market conditions at 24%, with homes selling on average 100% of list price. And if we look at some winners and losers, Champlain Heights, 100% sales to active ratio, Fraser, 82%, Hastings, 59%. A lot of high seller market conditions here, and that means it's going to be competitive for you. If you're a buyer looking for a good entry mark, on Main Street, just 7% sales to active ratio. But other than that, everywhere is pretty competitive across Vancouver East. On price bands, anywhere from 300,000 all the way up to 900,000, you're also in seller market conditions. So when you start looking at something such as Fraser, in and around these areas, like I said, maybe in that $800,000 to $900,000 range. And as you go further east into Vancouver, you're going to start seeing some more opportunity when it comes to an availability of a townhome under that $1 million mark. But anywhere from that 800,000, you can go as high as up to $2 million for a townhouse in around Vancouver's East Side. There are some pockets for opportunity, 14 and 15%. That's still pretty strong balanced market conditions. It doesn't really matter where you're looking at right now across Vancouver's East Side, even in the quote unquote ideal areas for price band in around that 14 to 16%, around that $1 million mark, you're still in strong balanced market conditions. So on Vancouver's East Side and townhomes, you're going to have to look on a case-by-case basis. Like I said, we do have a lot more inventory to choose from. So if you're patient, you should be able to find something out. As we go into Vancouver's West Side attached market for condos and townhomes, we can see the same thing too, almost a doubling of inventory since December. Sales have also doubled, but this gap here is as wide as it's been in a very, very long time. We can see that again, seller market conditions at 21%, and homes are selling 3% on average higher on Vancouver's West Side. So we know it's a little bit more competitive. We saw with that recent medium price point data that the Vancouver East Side condo market, especially if you're wanting to look at a 2-bedroom townhome, there's some good opportunity there. As we look at some of the areas, if you're a seller where you're wanting to operate in, Kitsilano, Fairview, and Falls Creek, very, very high seller market conditions. Mount Pleasant as well. If you're looking for a deal, South Granville as well as Southwest Marine and Oak Ridge are sitting in buyer market conditions. A lot of inventory, especially the South Cambie area too at 11%. But South Granville, 44 units inventory, only 2 sales. So you're going to be able to pick something up here. In terms of price band, if you're looking for a 2-bedroom townhouse, maybe you can get something in the $900,000 mark. And that 1 million to 1.25 is very competitive at 36%. If you're jumping into that 1.75 to $2 million mark, and even up to 2.25, you can get into that 9% sales to active ratio, buyers market conditions, as well as 1.75. You can get a newer, larger townhome, but obviously you're paying a little bit more up there. But anything else else is still, quite strong, balanced market conditions or getting into seller market conditions. We can also see that the days on market for Vancouver's west side is at 11 days too. So, there is some competitiveness out there. It is a strange marketplace out there because if you aren't priced well, there's properties that are sitting. So you do have options out there. We know that July 24th is the next Bank of Canada policy rate announcement. We're going to be waiting to see what happens there. We know that the inflation numbers weren't what the Bank of Canada wanted to see. So are they going to pause it? It looks like they will, but keep in mind, we are still poised for a number of rate drops throughout 2024 and into 2025. One of my recent videos about the first rate drop, we know that Canada as a whole has dropped rates 2.35% across the board when they were originally at a peak and started to come downward. So we're going to have to wait and see where that is. But in the meantime, you have the data that you need to make a decision. If you're wanting more information, make sure you book that strategy call with me. It's in the description below. Let's work on your real estate goals together and let's get you into the market, because whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest, or relocate to my beautiful city, Vancouver, I am Kyle Mark and here to help you with your real estate goals. Take care.